Hello there folks, and you're very welcome back to this lesson 6 in our foundation in graphic design here at Shaw Academy. This is Kevin again joining you here. So what are we going to be doing today? Well, lesson 6 guys, this lesson is on demand and we're going to be just looking a little bit more at Illustrator. Now we introduced Illustrator in lesson 5 with our logo tutorial. So today we're just going to be using a couple of more of the tools in Illustrator and getting a bit more familiar with them. The tools we'll be looking at are the pen tool, the elusive pen tool, by far the most powerful tool in Illustrator. After that then we're going to be looking at Illustrator's very good tracing capabilities. And then finally we're going to look at some brushes, both Illustrator's brushes, and then we're going to actually create our own brushes, which are very handy in creating your own sort of custom based artwork. So the pen tool, we're going to look at accessing the pen tool, drawing some basic shapes and learn how then to add and subtract anchor points for different versions of the pen tool. Once we've that mastered, then we're going to go on to drawing some curves and then tracing out some basic shapes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and open up Illustrator and we'll get cracking with the pen tool. So here we have Illustrator open up in front of us. I'm just going to go ahead and open up a new document. It doesn't matter what size or anything for today's purposes, so just leave everything at default and click OK. There we go. So guys, a few notes about the pen tool. This guy over here on our left. It is by far probably, as I said, the most powerful tool in Illustrator. There can be an element of mystery and fear surrounding it, as people do tend to struggle to grab the concept of it, but trust me, it's not that scary. It can be used to create countless lines, curves and shapes, and it does serve as a building block for any illustration and design in Illustrator. The tool itself is used by creating what are called anchor points, as I'll demonstrate now for you very shortly. So these anchor points are then connected by lines, which can again be connected further to create different shapes. A little warning though guys, to perfect the tool does take a little bit of practice, but it is worth it. Unlike many graphic software tools that we have, so a lot of these can have some limitations or clear uses. The pen tool, on the other hand, is very flexible and it does encourage a lot of creativity. So let's move on now and see how to use the actual pen tool itself. So two things here before we start. First I'm going to select it just by clicking on it obviously, but I'm big into my shortcuts guys, as you know, so if you just click P actually on your keyboard, your pen tool will automatically be selected as well. Now the thing to remember about the pen tool is it's very simple. It's what's called, think of it at least, it's what's called point and click. So just literally point and click, point to your next one and click, point to your next and click, point to your next and click, point to your next and click. Anywhere at all you want your points to be, or whatever shape you want to draw out. And by the way, you will see then once you're trying to close out your shape, a little circle appearing underneath my pen tool there. That means that the shape wants to close itself off. It wants to find the beginning and end point and join them together. So you can see my little zero appears there as soon as it knows. Illustrator is very clever. It knows where you're trying to close off the shape. So I'm going to click there and close my shape off. Just going to select my selection tool, and there we have our basic shape. An interesting one, I guess. Sort of just came out there. But now you can use this shape now the same as you would any other of the shapes that we've already covered, the same as circles and squares. So I can then color my shape to whatever color I want. I can color it in red, purple, blue, whatever. You can select your colors as we've done in the previous examples. You can select your stroke color. You can change it to blue if you like. You can change your stroke width again to whatever you like. So you've basically the same control over this shape as you have had over your shapes you would have used by selecting your shapes tool or your rectangle tool down here. So it's the same principles apply to it. The next thing then guys, you will notice that as with most of Adobe's tools, you see the little flyout arrow underneath the tool. What does that mean? We know that means there are more tools underneath. So if I click on that, I know that my pen tool is selected. I also have an add anchor point tool. I have a delete anchor point tool, and I have an anchor point tool itself. I'm just going to drag this over onto my window for a second, guys, so you guys can see a bit easier. So there we go, we have our anchor point, our pen tool, sorry, excuse me, our add anchor point tool and our delete anchor point tool and then our actual anchor point tool. So what do all these do? Well, we've seen our pen tool, our add anchor point, you can guess what that does, same as our delete, and then our actual one itself. I'm just going to select the delete because it's easier to see first of all. So click my delete anchor point and you can guess what that does. So if I actually get close to my anchor points, you can see it selects it, okay, straight away. And you'll see the word anchor appearing above it. So I know I have another anchor point there. You can see it appears. Once I get close enough to it, you can see it appearing again, and you can see it appearing again. You get the idea, guys, okay? So that's how you find your points. So if we want to delete one, simply find the point you want to delete and click. And there we go. That point is now deleted. And click again if you want to delete some more. If you want to delete some more. And now I'm getting back to a much more basic shape. That is my delete point. So, moving on then to my add anchor point. Same principles apply, guys. Simply click wherever you want to add a point back in. So I want to click one there in the middle. I have now added in a point. Why did I want to do that? Well, it just gives me more control over the actual shape again. Because we've already covered our selection and direct selection tools. So if I select that now, so instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4 points, I now have an extra one here. So if I select my direct selection tool, for example, I can now move that point out, which didn't exist a minute ago, but I just created it. So now I have an extra point there that I can drag out. Again, it just gives you more control over your actual shape. So I can add in more, click one there. Again, with my direct selection tool, I can drag that out again. You get the idea, guys, okay? It just gives you a lot more control over the actual shapes themselves. Okay? And there we have it. So there we have our pen, our add anchor and delete anchor point. Now, the actual anchor point tool itself here. Now, this one is interesting, guys, okay? You can have a lot more control with this. For example, I have them selected there. If I mouse over my path there now, my new shape, you'll see my icon changes again, and it means I can actually drag out an actual curve from that path now. Very, very powerful, guys, extremely powerful. And you'll see little handles then appearing either side as well. So I'm going to just drag that out for you to see there, for example. Change my shape completely. Now you can see two handles appearing here then. So with these handles, I can actually then change the variance of that curve. So if I just mouse over my handle and I pull over or back or in between, so I'm just going to pull over for a second, you can see I'm changing the variance of the curve. If I even pull that down, make it shorter, make it shallower, you can see the variance of the curve changing. If I want to say get my curve inside, again you can see it changing. Again, maybe I want to select my other one. Again, you can see if I just drag that all the way around, you can see the variance of the curve changing. And again, just move it forward or back, you can see. I'll demonstrate this a little bit better for you now, guys, but you can see now the actual anchor point tool itself is very, very powerful. Again, I can select a path anywhere at all I like and simply drag out that path then. So my handles then appear, my handles here, appear wherever my anchor points are. So they appear out from the anchor point itself. So again, I can drag those handles out to create the different curves. There you see, guys, very, very powerful. You can imagine just by looking at this, you can create any shape you like. Okay, it can be very interesting when you're creating some logo designs and things like that as well. So just be conscious of it. Okay, and again, if you make a mistake, you can simply delete some points and maybe start again. Or if you want to add in some more, click plus add in, and there we have some more points. So guys, you can see just by playing around, you can create some really, really interesting shapes. But this is more for when you're actually maybe tracing out some shapes as well, but you're going to be moving on to now very shortly. So the next thing, guys, I just want to cover drawing actual curves in itself. So we saw what the anchor point does there. I was going to show you a little bit more detail how they actually work. So I'm just going to delete my artwork here for a second. For the purposes of this, guys, I'm actually going to turn on my grid for you guys to see a little bit easier. So the simplest way to do this is go up to Window, or it's not window, actually view, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, and just show grid. Again, I'm big into my shortcuts. On my keyboard it's actually the control and hash key, so I'm going to just on and off there for you to see, but you'll see maybe on some of yours it might be the control and commas key, inverted commas key there. It just depends, maybe some keyboards are a little bit different. But you get the idea, guys. Again, just showing you because of shortcuts. I'm big into my shortcuts. So I'm just going to draw out some basic curves, guys. So I'm going to select my pen tool again and just show you in a bit more detail how the actual anchor point tool works. Okay, so say I just want to draw a nice steady curve. So I'm going to start there. So I'm going to go maybe about halfway or so through to there, and I'm going to just drag that out. Okay, it's going to drag out my handles, and you can see my curve appearing then. Okay, so you can see I can make it as extreme or as shallow as I like, and again I just drag those handles down to get the curve you desire. You can see that this does take a little bit of practice, but I mean a little bit of practice that does go a long way. Say I just want to create a nice gentle curve. By the way, as with everything, holding your shift key does constrain the curve. So you can see there now, if you hold your shift key, I'm getting a straight angle on my handles. Okay, so I'm getting 45 degrees and 90 degrees there, or 180 degrees each time. So if I take off my shift key, I can rotate around to as much as I like. So just a quick tip for you there, guys. Holding your shift key, again, as with everything in Adobe, just basically constrain your proportions. So just maybe practice drawing out some very, very simple light curves there. And again, I can push down my points there to as much or as little as I want it to actual curve, the actual variance of the curve. And there you have a nice gentle curve there. Now you can see, I finished drawing my curve there now, guys. You can see it's actually trying to fill in the shape, which I don't want, okay? And you can see that it's actually trying to find an end point here as well. Illustrator wants to try and basically close off the shape, if you know what I mean, to make it all one, but I don't want that. I'm quite happy with my little blue line. There's my curve. So a little quick tip for you: if you just hold down your control key, and click, and there you have it. There you have it. It'll now deselect everything, and you just have your nice simple curve there. Now you'll see my red here because it's trying to fill it in. So if I just select my new curve, I don't want any red. I just want that set to none, which you've covered already, guys. Just click that to none, and now we just have a nice gentle blue curve there. So a little tip for practicing, guys, this is why I'm showing you this. Maybe draw a curve like this, and then just try and maybe, you know, draw one again underneath it. It's just a way of basically practicing using the pen tool. Okay, I've gone around this completely the wrong way. Excuse me for a second, guys. So I forgot what I was doing there. So again, just sort of try and practice sort of drawing a curve and then matching it again. It's just a way of sort of practicing and getting better at using your pen tool. Very, very simple exercises, guys. And again, the great thing about this is, with your anchor point tool, you can also then just go and maybe tweak to where you need to. So again, use your anchor points again, just tweak away to maybe where you might need to change. So the thing is, when you're using this, if you get as close as you can initially, and then if there's any fine tuning required, simply select your anchor point tool and even add in some more anchor points if you need to. So I'm going to add another one in there, so I can just change that curve a little bit more. You get the idea, guys. You can just, so practice drawing curves and tracing them, adding in more points and maybe deleting points, just to get you a little bit more better use actually using the tool itself. Just a little tip for you then, guys. You can see when I am drawing my curves, I'll just do another quick one here for a second. You can see the line there, the little blue line. It's basically called your elastic bands, is what people call that, okay? You can see it's telling you what your line will look like before you actually draw it. Now, some people can find this quite handy, especially when starting off. Some people find it a little bit annoying. So I'm just going to show you a quick tip on how you can actually change that. You can see my band there is telling me where my line is going to be before I actually draw it. So if I want to actually change that or get rid of that, Simply go to your preferences. Two ways to do this. You can select your preferences there at the top, or go to edit and preferences. The quick way, of course, just on your options bar there. So go into preferences. Under here you will see selection and anchor display. And down here then you will see enable rubber band for pen tool and curvature tool. So we're working with the pen tool today. So if I click that off, click OK. So if I go to draw something again, you'll see now that I'm not getting any of my elastic band. I sort of have to, you know, guess. Now it's showing me once I start drawing, alright, but it's not sort of telling me where it thinks it wants to go, okay? So it can be, it gives you the option, okay guys? Personally, I find it easier, especially if you're just learning or just practicing. Once you get a little bit more skilled, you mightn't want to bother. But for now, I'd say leave it on for you guys, especially at this early stage, okay? So it's just a little tip for you there. So again, up to preferences, selection and anchor display, and I'm going to turn it back on there for now. Again, if you want to change some of your other settings, generally I tend to leave things as default for now. You can actually just change the size of your anchors and your handles here as well, guys. So maybe you want to make them a little bit bigger or smaller. Mine are just set as default in the middle there for now. So you want to make them maybe a bit larger or a bit smaller. You can change the sizes of them there if you think you might find it beneficial or easier for yourself when you're starting off. As I said, to be honest, I just tend to leave most things as their defaults. So click OK. So there we go. That is just setting your preferences there for your actual rubber band tool. So you can see now if I draw something again, I'll see my wee band appearing. There it is. So I haven't actually drawn anywhere. So if I click there and drag out, it's just appearing straight away. So same as you can see, it's appearing there again. As I said, some people find it handy, some people don't. So it's just up to your own preferences. So there we go. That is that. Okay guys, so there we have, we've covered the pen tool. I'm just going to go back here and see what we've done so far. So we've covered the pen tool, we've drawn some basic shapes, we've covered the different versions of the pen tool, drawn some curves. Now we're going to go on to actually manually tracing. We're going to put all these into effect so you'll see the overall usages of the actual pen tool itself. So I'm going to switch back again to Illustrator. I'm going to open up a new document. I'm just going to get rid of it. I'm just going to close this off for now. I don't need to save any of this. Hardly going to sell it to Banksy or anything. So I'm just going to go File, and I'm going to open up a document that I've pre-made just to show you how to actually trace out an image using the techniques we've just gone through. So here we have a nice old G with some nice curves, G for graphic design, of course. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm actually just going to trace out along this using the techniques that we've just gone through. So there we have G on my artboard there. I'm just going to turn that, and I'm just going to actually lock that in place. Again, guys, we already know all this. Just click on your lock to lock. So now I cannot edit over that, and I'm just going to create a new layer. You already know this, guys. So create new layer. There too. I'm just going to call that trace. As is good practice, guys, naming your layers, as you know. So call that trace. Now I'm going to select my pen tool. And by the way, a little tip, what I tend to do as well, some people don't actually use any stroke or color when they're tracing. I find that a little bit awkward. You can see up here there's none selected straight away. So as soon as I start tracing, I won't actually see any color. I'll see the path, but I won't see a color. So if that is your preference, fair enough. You can simply select none. I tend to choose like a really bright color, so a red there. But I put my stroke right down, maybe even to like 0.5 or something for now, so that I can just actually see a bit more clearer what's happening. So I'm going to set my stroke to a nice bright red. My fill, I don't need any fill for now. It's going to select that to none, and I'm happy then with that. Okay, so I'm going to select my pen tool. Again, I find it easier to sort of start at a corner. Some people do different ways, but for me, I just think it makes a little bit more sense. So what we're going to do, guys, I'm going to start at a corner. I'm actually going to trace out this using the techniques we've learned. Now, I'm going to come across a little problem or two which I already know is coming, so this is why I want to show you this, and we'll cross it then when we come to it, okay? So I'm going to start here, and I'm actually just going to zoom in a little bit for you guys to see a little bit better, plus for my own eyesight as well. So I'm going to maybe start with the basic shape here, to the top of the G, and a little tip for you guys as well. If you want to move your art around on your artboard there, or on your screen, hold down your spacebar key. You will see a little hand appearing, and you can then drag with your mouse around the screen to wherever you want your artwork to appear. So I'm going to put mine in the more or less the center there as much as I can. So click off your spacebar, or take off your spacebar, and there you go. So you can do that again. So click your spacebar and drag your artwork. It's just very, very handy little tip then, especially when you're zoomed in like this instead of zooming in and zooming out. So there we go, guys. Just going to move that around the center there. So with my pen tool, let's begin. So my pen tool is there. I'm on my trace layer. I'm going to click here at the start. So click at the start. I'm going to just trace around here, guys. Again, this file will be in your student area, so you can practice this as well. Okay. And I don't need to be 100% accurate right now, because with my anchor point tool I can adjust these as I'm going along. Okay, so I'm clicking and I'm dragging out my points. I'm going to go along to my next one, say around there. Again, with something like this, guys, I tend to try and use as little points as I can. If you can get away with it, just makes things a little bit smoother. And again, but like I said, if you're stuck, you can add them in later on when you need to be. And again, rule of thumb, if you're about 90-ish% accurate for now, you can always come back, as I will be doing after this, and yeah, once I've got the most of this done. So I'm just clicking and dragging out my points. And again, and you can see my rubber band tool is helping me out here a little bit. Clicking and dragging out. Again, guys, you can afford to be a little bit more accurate when you have a little bit more time on your hands. So clicking and dragging out. Going on to my corner. Now, I can see a bit of a problem here, guys, straight away. You can see it's curving around way too much for me. So what I want to do is I want to actually drag back the handles closer to the actual anchor point. And when I do this, you'll see the difference. So how do I do this? Click my Alt, or hold on my Alt button, and drag my handle back a little bit, okay? And you will see the difference now. So when I go to click now, you can see the variance of the curve is a lot less. So the longer your handles, the more the variance will be, okay? So it's important, if it's too long, your variance will come right up, as it was a second ago. So I'm going to drag that handle way out now again, and you can see the difference. See? So you can see that is no good to me at all. So simply drag your handles back closer to your anchor point. And you can see there now, it makes life much, much easier. And I can drag that back there again. So clicking and dragging. Now, guys, here we have another little problem that I knew it was going to come. People call this this phenomena whipping, basically. Okay, so think of it as a whip. It's coming around there. I'm not getting a straight, nice line there. Okay, so if I want to click anywhere there now, you can see it's just not going to work very well for me, is it? I'm getting this terrible, terrible curve here. I'm not getting a straight line, okay? So how do I fix this? Again, simply Alt, and this time you can drag if you like, but if a quicker way too, if you want to get that really, really straight edge, Alt, and just click on the point. So click on your anchor point, and now when I click my next one, I get that nice straight angle there then as well. Okay, so that is the big one to remember, guys. If you get that, which you will every now and again when you're doing these, it's called whipping. Just Alt and you click on your point, and it'll just bring your points right back and give you a nice right angle to work with then again. So I'm going to keep going here, guys. Again, I'm not being 100% accurate right now. I don't need to be, because I can always change it again after the fact. Obviously, get as accurate as you possibly can. Sometimes it helps to just drag the anchor points back a little bit. And again, I'm just clicking and dragging all the way around. Again, guys, it's a good, as I said, it's just a good exercise just to practice really, you know. So practice drawing around these inside and outside sort of curves. And again, you could see there, as you know guys, it intersected, it found the endpoint automatically for me, so I'm very, very happy with that. So if I just zoom out of that again, okay, as you can see guys, I wasn't overly exact. I'm just going to color the whole lot in red for a second. So you can see there guys, I have some nose not exactly right there, okay. So again, what I can do with my anchor point tool is just click anywhere, maybe drag it down, you can change the curve of it. That one's down here, this one's coming out a little bit too much. And again, just moving around, this guy in here not exactly, oh, bit too much there, Control Z. So with my anchor points, I can change the curve. I can even drag that point down a little bit to help me. Again, too much, Kevin. But you can see, guys, you do have a lot of control after the fact as well. But it is important to try and get as close as you can the first time around. So with my anchor point tool, I can just drag those bits that I might have missed. It does take a little bit of patience, guys. Okay, but you will get a lot better at this as time goes on. So you can see there guys, so basically that is how you trace out an object. I don't need to go through the rest, this is quite simple, but actually I will. I'll just do the second part here for you guys. Exact same thing, select my pen tool, start at the top. I'm going to select back to none for a second for now, so it's easy for you to see. Start at the top, get a nice curve there. Okay, I'm going all the way along. Drag out. All the way along again. Drag out. Down to my edge. You can see, oh, I'm actually not getting a whipping point this time. I thought I was going to. It can be funny like that sometimes. So it's coming along actually pretty easy, this one. So just going to drag my handle back a little bit. And again, click and drag out. And along we go again, guys. You get the impression, guys. You see what we're doing here. So it's just good practice for yourselves. Zoom out for you guys to see. Just good practice for yourselves to maybe start tracing out some shapes like that. Okay, good practice for your pen tool. There we go, guys. So if I turn off the layer underneath, you can see there now, not exactly perfect, but it was done in a little bit of a hurry. But you can see you can actually edit again to your heart's content after the fact as well. So guys, that's how you trace out some basic shapes. Next thing we're going to go on out to actually let Illustrator do the tracing for us, which is quite fun and quite handy. Okay. So there we had, we covered there on manual tracing, guys. As I said, next thing I want to go on out actually tracing, letting Illustrator do the tracing for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to place an image on the page. This can be a any image you want. It could be a JPEG or something like that, any sort of bitmap image, so you can basically convert it then to a vector artwork. This means then, of course, as you already know, guys, you can then scale this image to your heart's content. So we're going to do that by placing an image using the image trace function, and then using the image trace panel then to adjust our tracing. Okay, so let's move on now with placing our image and using the image trace. So again, guys, I'm just going to open up a new document. So file new. Again, it doesn't matter really for now, so I'm just going to leave it as default. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place an image, like a JPEG image, in my Illustrator, artboard here. So I'm going to go File, Place, select a JPEG image. So I have a little sketch here of my wee dog. Going to place him anywhere, and there we go. So this is just, you can use this for anything, guys. Okay, so this is just a sketch, as I said, of my wee dog, and just on paper, so you can scan it in if you like, and then once it's scanned in, once it's digital, then you can actually create that. You can create a vector artwork then from that very, very simply. Once you're happy with your dog on your page there, it doesn't really matter, you can place them after the fact anyway. So your image is then placed on the page. All you need to do then, Illustrator is very, very powerful with this. You can imagine if you're tracing this line by line, as people used to have to do, as I had to do a couple of times, it'd take you all day, even all week sometimes, to be honest with you. But there's some new features now in Illustrator. The one we're going to be working with today is called Image Trace, and you can guess what it does. So select your image, go up to Image Trace, click Image Trace, and you can see it's there working away in there now. And there we go, boom, just like that, it's now traced your image for you. So I can see there now, if I can move that around, I can select that, I could make this as big as a house if I needed to, it wouldn't lose any of its quality at all, as you know, it's now a vector graphic. Okay. Now, because this was just a straight black and white drawing, I'm not going to change too much with it, but if you wanted to, what you can do is open up your image trace panel up here, which is right, this little icon up here. So click on your image trace panel. That will then open up, and here you have some settings then. Now we'll go through these settings in a little more detail in our next trace exercise, but you can see basically our mode is black and white. That's fine for now. You can change the threshold a little bit less, a little bit more. If I bring that right down now, you can see the threshold is brought right down. If I want to increase the threshold, make it basically have more detail, I can bring that all the way up. You can see it changing. And again, you can see there now I have a lot more detail. So you can have different presets too. It doesn't really matter for now. We'll show more in the next artwork. But up here then we have things like auto color. It doesn't matter for now because it's black and white. We have high color, low color, grayscale, and black and white. So these are lots of our different options. As I said, for now this is just a line drawing, so it doesn't really make much difference, but you can see there how simple it is to take anything that you've done at home yourselves, or maybe even your kids or your partner or whatever, and if you want to make that digital, and then more than making it digital, making it a vector artwork, you can then actually edit this then in these programs then as well. So how do you go about doing this? Well, as I said, this is just a simple sketch drawing to show you how to actually trace your actual artwork. Again, very, very simple. All you had to do was click trace. So once you're happy with your results, then basically what you do is you click expand. And what this does then, you can see it's created all of the little anchor points then. You can see there are probably a couple of thousand there, or at least a couple of hundred in this alone. So you can imagine if you're trying to trace that out node by node with your pen tool. So you can see Illustrator is a very, very powerful tool to enable it to do all this for you. Okay, so you can see it's very, very detailed there. So you can see now I can actually select all different nodes. You could go to your pen tool. Okay, and you could delete some points. If I wanted to maybe delete some points here to show you. Oh, no anchor point there. There's one there. I can start deleting points away. Oh, so I'm just not being very accurate there, guys. That's why that error is coming up. So I can zoom right in. I can start deleting some anchor points. You can see there then. Okay, I can start adding some in, but basically what it means is it now gives you complete control over your actual graphic, which is very, very cool. You can do a lot of nice effects with it. So that's very simply how you trace your image. I'm going to go on now, I'm going to actually trace a photograph this time. So that was quite a simple sketch just to give you the idea. So what happens now if you can't even bother drawing out the sketch and you just want to go straight to the actual photograph? Well, that's next. So next, I'm going to just going to open up a new document again. I'm going to leave poor Rudy there on the screen for a second. New document. Again, it doesn't matter. Just leave it as default for now. It's fine. Same process, guys. File, place, find your image. There she is, Rudy. Bring her in. And just click wherever you want your image then to appear. So there we have my wee dog, Rudy. I hope you like her. So at this time, what we're going to do is, you can see now, this is an actual photograph, guys. This is very, very different from before, okay? So this is obviously going to take a little bit more processing, but you can get a lot more from it, okay? And our image trace settings are going to come in to a lot more, they're going to come into play a lot more now on this particular one. So I'm going to start here. I'm just going to close everything down again for a second. My image is on my screen. I'm going to select it. I'm going to go up again to my image trace and let Illustrator do its business. And wow, that was quick, okay? So not exactly what I wanted. So what we do, we open up our image trace panel, and here we have all our settings. Now, I purposely ignored my advanced settings there a minute or two ago, guys, but don't be afraid now to open up this time, because this time I was working with a much more intricate image. So you can see by default there, the mode was actually set to black and white. Yeah, I mean, you can leave that there if you like. It's quite a nice little sort of Che Guevara type of effect there, shall we say. But I'm going to switch that to color for a second. So I'm going to switch to color. And you can see Illustrator is working away there, doing its thing. Quite quick. Whoa. And there you can see, again, actually, just with the default settings, you get some really, really nice effects. Again, guys, as you know now, you can now scale this image. This is now a vector image. You can now scale this image infinitely, and it will not lose any of the quality, which is very, very cool. Plus, you can also, as we said, with our anchor points, our selection tools, you can go in and actually you can manipulate any of this image once we've expanded it, using our expand little button up here, into our finished vector file. But say we want to edit some of the colors and, you know, maybe mess around with some of the settings here a little bit. Okay, so we'll start at the top here, guys. If you want to just click auto color, Illustrator basically thinks it gets as close to what the original was, I guess, like, you know, okay, without going too extreme. And again, you can see there it's doing quite a good job. It gets really nice effects. But again, you can then select high color, and we'll obviously give it a little bit more detail. You can see Illustrator is working away there. This is quite an intensive process, maybe on your machine a little bit, guys, so it's not immediate. And you can see now that's actually very, very close to the real thing. You can see it is obviously a trace, or nearly like a painting, to be honest with you. But you get the effect, guys, okay? So again, there are more options here. You can go through them again. You get low color then. So there's obviously going to give you less colors. And there we go, you got some nice effects with that. If you want to go back to your grayscales, and again, it will obviously make it black and white, or a grayscale. Again, some nice effects. A straight black and white as we started off with at the very, very start. Again, quite cool. Bit of a Yoda look about poor Rudy there. But I'm just going to go back to start. I'm going to just select basically auto color, because now I'm going to go down and I'm going to just fine tune this setting, okay? So think of it this way, guys. This is your start points, okay? And then down here, then you can basically fine tune it a little bit more, okay? So if I want to maybe add just a few more colors, I've got 25 here at the moment. So maybe the color accuracy bring up to about maybe 32, say, just a little bit more. Just get a little bit more detail into it. Again, this is all about trial and error, guys, especially when you're working with things like these, okay? And then we move down then to our paths then. And if I'll just give you an example, if I bring my paths all the way down, you'll see it changing. Okay, so it basically, with my paths then, it does what it says on the tin, it creates more paths. So the higher the paths, the more detail, the lower the paths, less detail. You can see there now I put my paths way up higher, and you can see a lot more detail coming in around the nose and the eyes there. It's basically adding in more detail into it. So I'm going to just put that back into 50% for now. Corners then, guys, it's a little bit similar, okay? It's just, again, it's adding more detail. So I'm just going to, if I bring my corners right down, and you can see it sort of smooths out the corners a little bit more. So if I bring it all the way up to 100%, you can see now it's going to add in more corners and a bit more detail to my actual drawing there. You can see the corner, it's a little bit sharper there basically. It might be as easy for you guys to see, but Trust me, it is. So again, guys, it's a little bit of trial and error here. Just play around with things, especially every image is different, but you can get some really, really nice effects. So my noise then, okay, again, as you can see there, by the way, as with everything, guys, if you're unsure of what something does, simply mouse over it and the alt will tell you exactly what it does. So my noise, as you can see there, reduces noise by ignoring areas of specified pixel size. What this does is it does what it says in the tin there, guys. It reduces some of the grain, okay, so some of the little tiny pixels that you know might be there from the camera itself or from the quality. It just gets rid of these, okay. So you can if I bring my noise right up to 100%. Probably won't have much impact on this particular image. It does a little bit. You can see it's actually, because I've made my noise much bigger, you can see the eyes have actually disappeared there altogether, okay, so the detail has gone completely out of it. So if I bring my noise all the way down to 1%, it counts everything then, so you'll see all the finer details appear back in the face here and stuff. Then again, there you go, much more detail there. So again, you can bring that up to whatever you like, to whatever you're happy with. So there you go, guys. You can see a huge amount of options there, and there you go. I quite like that image there now. But you can see there are a huge amount of options. It does take a little bit of trial and error. So what I'm going to do now is I'm quite happy with that. I think it looks quite cool. Poor little Rudy. I'm going to click on expand, make that a vector artwork now, and you can see again all my nodes added in here. Again, guys, once you've all that done, you can then of course go in and you can select different areas of your artwork. Again, so I can delete my black background there, not quite what I want to do. But again, you can see, guys, if I want to delete the areas of the couch here or add stuff in, so I can select any area of my artwork now that I want, even make it a different color. Anything you want to do, guys, you have complete control over this now. Okay, you get the impression, guys. So try with a few different images yourself. As I said, you can get some nice little effects. Even the black and whites tend to work quite well. And but again, as I said, trial and error, guys, trial and error. So pick some nice images that you like, and you might want to edit. Have a little go, turn them into vectors, and you can get some really nice effects from that. Okay, so guys, that's tracing and image tracing. Again, very powerful within Illustrator. So I'm just going to check now where we are at the moment. So we've gone through our placing our image. We've used our image trace. We've used our image trace panel to get some variances on our image trace image. And then we've used the expanding to basically convert that then to our vector, our 100% vector graphic then with all our nodes and our points in it. Next thing then, guys, moving on to brushes. We're going to be using selecting the brush tool, drawing with the brush tool, creating paths, and then with using our brush options, and finally creating our custom brushes. You see a lot of designers, especially fashion designers, people like that, using custom brushes. They're very powerful tool. So I'm going to continue on now with that and switch back to Illustrator again. So now we're going to move on to our brushes part of our tutorial, guys. Okay, so here on my screen again, I've just opened up a new document. You'll recognize this guy from lesson 5. I've just brought him in for a second. You will see where he comes into play in a second when we're creating our custom brushes. But for now, I just want to talk about the brush tool itself. Okay, so the brush tool itself is this guy down here. Again, shortcut, guys, simply press B. So it's two ways of selecting. Simply select your brush tool, or again, if you just press B on your keyboard, your brush tool is now selected. So our brush tool is now selected, so I can just paint away anywhere I like on my artboard there now. So literally just drag around, paint in the same as you did with a pencil or pen, exactly the same way, anything I want. By the way, guys, you can see now that basically you can see my lines trying to even themselves out. Before we start, might be a good idea just to get that out of the way to explain how that works. So I'm just going to double click on your brush tool. You'll see your paintbrush options here, okay? So you can see here it can be quite accurate or it can be quite smooth. Now the reason being for this is that a lot of designers will use tablets and pens instead of mice or mouses or whatever the plural is for computer mice. instead of the mouse. So with the pen tools and their tablets, they can afford to have it quite accurate. Whereas if we're just using a mouse for now when you're beginning, you want to have it quite smooth. Okay, so I'll show you the difference here. If I set it to quite accurate and click OK, and if I now say try and draw out my signature, not very well. That's my signature. Okay, so that's reasonably accurate. So, okay, so if I change that now to smooth, all the way up to smooth, click OK, do the same thing. You can see it's completely smoothing out every line, so I get no real detail in it at all. Can be quite handy sometimes, so it's a good idea to maybe keep it around the middle for now. Okay, I'm just going to delete some of those out of the way because the screen looks an absolute mess. And the next thing then, when you're using your paintbrush tool, so click B, is closing paths is what I want to talk about. Okay, so you can see there, if I want to draw a circle, got close enough to it, it's a circle close enough, but it's not actually closed. The path isn't closed. Do you remember earlier on, Illustrator was trying to close a path for us, whereas there, even if I zoom right in on that guy now, I can see that path is still open there. So how do we fix that problem? Okay, very, very simply, guys. When you're drawing your shape, let's go and delete this guy for a second out of the way. When you draw your shape, again, I'm going to select my brush. If you draw out your circle, but this time if you hold on your Alt key, you can see the difference. My little 0 appeared there under my brush. Okay, so that actually closes it for me. That's not a very good example. So I'm going to draw my brush again, draw out my circle, hold on my Alt keys, and getting closer, and you'll see there it now closes the path for me. So if I zoom in on that, you can see there the path is perfectly closed. Very, very handy. Why I showed you that, guys, is because that is also in the settings in your brush tool. So again, if I double click on my paintbrush tool again, you can see here the within 12 pixels. Okay, so it closes the path once it gets within that amount. Okay, so if you want to be really, really accurate, you can set it all the way down, or if you want to be a little bit less precise, you can bring it all the way up. Again, for the purposes of this foundation course, leave things at their defaults is perfectly fine for now. So that is your brush tool. Just a little quick tip for you though, by the way, guys. If you do sort of forget to close your paths, or you want to go back after the fact, just going to delete this guy out of the way again for a second. Another quick tip is basically, so say you're drawing out your circle and you go, oh no, I forgot to join my paths. What you can do is actually just select over with your selection tool, right click and click on join. And that will automatically do it for you. Now you can see there, it can be a little bit ugly sometimes, but if it does you, that's fine, or else you can go and just redo it. But that's just a little tip for you. So again, select over and right click and click join, and that will actually create that join for you as well in your shape. So guys, that's how your brush tool works, but now I'm going to go on and just go through a couple of the different variances you can have with your brush tool. So over on my right hand side here, I open up my brushes panel. I'm actually just going to drag it out for you guys to see a little bit easier to make it good and open. Okay, so as with them all, on your little fly down menu here, you have much more options. So I can open up my brush library. Now you can see here, guys, there are lots and lots and lots of different brushes. One of the really nice ones actually is the Wacom 60 brushes. These are pen art brushes. You've got different vector packs. Again, guys, have a bit of a play around with these. Some of them are a little bit weird, abstract. Some of them quite useless, to be honest with you. But a lot of them not. A lot of them very, very interesting. Get some really nice effects with them. So I'm going to go open up my Wacom ones there for a second, okay, just so you guys can see. So you can see that's opened up my brush panel there in front of me. If you want to simply just drag that into your other pane then as well, you can see it trying to get in there automatically. So there you have our brushes, and you can open up as many different brushes or brush libraries then as you like. So maybe you want to open up another one. So that opens up in there then. So very, very handy. So just to show you some of the differences, this is the, as it says, the Wacom art pen brushes. So if I want to select a different brush there for a second, draw with that. You can see, guys, you get some really nice proper pen on paper sort of effects, I guess. You know, that's what they're designed for, okay? So you can see some really, really nice brushes there. You can get some, change them around, some nice pen styles. Okay, so guys, I'd encourage you to have a play around with these, like, you know, see what suits your styles. You find different brushes for specific projects, okay? So you can actually, again, select any type of brushes you like. Some nice calligraphic ones there. Nice when you're drawing your nice calligraphy. Okay, I'm just going to open up some of the other ones again for a second. As I said, you do get some quite abstract ones as well. So even I'm going to open up, say, our floral ones. So here we go. This one will be quite surreal. So I'm going to select a different one there. So if I draw with him, you can see now, guys, you get some very, very strange ones as well. But you never know; they can always be tweaked to your heart's content. So there is a range of possibilities there for you. But what if, guys, none of these brushes are suitable for your particular job or for a particular task? Well, what you can do is you can actually create your own brushes. Very, very cool. And all you do then, this is why our little logo comes back into play here then again, is you can basically draw out any particular shapes you like and then simply place them in your brushes panel, and they then become brushes for you to use. So I'm going to draw out a very simple very simple icon now to create a brush from. As I'm a big fan of my teardrop shape, I'm going to just create another teardrop. So again, as we said in lesson 5, draw out, oh, that's the wrong shape, Kevin. Sorry, my ellipse tool, there we go. So I'm going to very, very quickly create that again. So it was my circle, guys, if you remember, then my square again. You don't need to worry about this, we've already covered this, so I'm just actually creating a shape here to create a pattern from. So I'm going to create my teardrop shape. Pathfinder tool. Join those paths. I'm just going to color this in, guys. Now this is where my color is going to play here. This is why this guy has been here. So I just want to, because I quite like these colors, quite fond of them. I'm now going to create a pattern from this shape and from these colors. So I'm just going to color that guy in, maybe make him that color first. I'm going to change my stroke to none, which it already is there. Perfect. So there you have my basic shape for my pattern, or my brush, but I'm just going to, he's not quite there yet. I want to make him a little bit different. So I'm going to bring him around. That's one of them. Again, guys, you can create any shape you like, and you can basically make a brush out of it. This is just an example for you guys for now. So I'm simply using the one pattern over and over again. Illustrator is helping me out a lot here too, by the way, guys, you can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little pattern from my teardrop shape that we're all familiar with at this stage, and my nice colors from our logo design in our last tutorial there. So I'm going to make that just a nice red line to start with. And I'm just going to color in my shapes now. Again, guys, this isn't a drawing tutorial, guys. It's all about just creating patterns to use for your brushes. So I'm just going to very, very quickly color in my different shapes here then. Maybe make them a little bit darker. Again, once you have a bit more time, guys, you can create all sorts of different patterns that you like. But as I said, I'm quite fond of those colors. So hence, I just thought I'd save time by using them. So guys, there I have a very basic shape. It's like a little pattern. Okay, I can scale that up or down. So all I need to do now to make this a brush pattern, very, very simply, is just drag it into my brushes panel. So here we go. Watch this. Drag it in. Now here we go. I got a couple of different options here, so I'm going to go through each of these as well. I can make it a scatter brush, an art brush, or a pattern brush. So I'll go through the three of them. I'll make it a scatter brush for now. Click OK. And here you get lots and lots of different options. I'm going to leave everything as default just for a second so you can see, but you can see you have a range of different options here. But just for now, I'm just going to leave it as default. Click OK. So now, with my brush tool selected, I'm going to draw out a new shape. And you can see there, guys, I'm actually drawing out my pattern. So I'm using the pattern as my brush and I'm drawing it out in a scatter pattern. Very, very cool, huh? Excellent, excellent. So I'm going to delete that again for a second, guys. This time, I'm going to drag it in again, but I'm going to make it a different type of brush this time. I'm going to make it an art brush this time. And again, you get more options. So again, you can play around with these guys. I'm going to leave them as their defaults for now. And this time, so I'm going to select my brush, draw it again. And there we go, as you can see, a completely different pattern now, okay? But again, with the same in mind. Again, some really nice effects. So one last time, guys, I'm going to create, just delete these for a second out of the way. One last time, drag it into my brushes panel. I'll make it a pattern brush this time. And again, guys, lots and lots of options here for you to have a play around with. Too many to go through in this tutorial right now, but just like I said, have a play around with them and you'll see all your different ones. For example, you have your corner here. You can select different options for that. If you want it to go auto, or if you want to slice it, you can see it slicing down the middle there. If you want it to overlap, you get lots of different options. So start with the defaults for now. And as I said then, once you want to fine tune, you can get into these a little bit more. I'm just going to leave everything as their defaults for now. This time draw with my brush tool, select my B, and just draw. And there we go. I can actually draw any shape I want, and it will fill in with my pattern. Very, very cool. Just a little tip, guys, while we're here, a little bonus for you. It doesn't just have to be a brush. You could have dragged the exact same thing into your swatches panel, for example. So I'll show you now. This isn't part of the lesson, guys, but it's just come to me there. So for example, if I want to click on my swatches panel here, if I drag in my pattern, I drag that in there, that's now created a swatch for me. What does that mean? Well, I can now draw out any shape at all. If I draw out a shape like that, and I want to fill it with the swatch, I simply click on my swatch, and there you go, it's filled with my swatch. Very handy. Actually, while I think of it, I remember I did have a little trick here. I had a little dress, just to show you that in action. So, say, you take a little picture of a dress, if you want to fill that. And there we go, guys. Okay. So, very, very cool and very handy. So you can basically make swatches or brushes out of any design that you come up with yourself and use it then. Very cool. So guys, that's it for the lesson 2 in our Illustrator tutorial. Just a quick recap there again. So in that one, we went through selecting our brushes, drawing with our brushes, creating our paths, our brush options, and then we created some of our very own custom brushes. That's it for this lesson, guys. Thanks very much for being here and looking forward to chatting to you again next week. Bye for now.